All right, hello everybody. This is John Beatty back with another moneyfortraveling.com interview, and I'm really excited for who we've got on the phone call with us right now. I have Dr. Joseph Williams, and what's cool about Dr. Williams is that he is an author of a book. It's called Who Do You See in the Mirror, and the subtitle is Changing Irresponsible Behavior to Responsible Behavior in the Workplace. And he didn't just kind of sit in an ivory tower and create the concepts that are in the book. He actually worked as a baggage handler for 7 years while creating some of these principles that he teaches. And so I'm very excited because he's going to talk about what happens to your bags from a real-life perspective when you check them in at the airport. If you've ever worried about what's going to happen to your luggage when you check it, or what actually goes on behind the scenes of in the airport, this is going to probably open your eyes to some pretty funny and entertaining stuff. So, Dr. Williams, how are you?
Okay, just fine, yeah.
Great.
Thanks for asking me on your program.
I appreciate you being here, of course. Yeah, it's great that you're on the call with us. Well, like I said in the intro, you went undercover as a baggage handler, and you found out what's really going behind the scenes in the airline industry. You've probably have some awesome stories, some really funny stories about baggage being destroyed and mishandled. Give us the dirt. Kind of, what did you see going on back there?
Well, I saw a little of both, John, and the biggest thing, of course, is the destroying of the bags, but it wasn't done purposely. A lot of those are accidents, and people are not having, some focus on what they're doing. You get your biggest wear and tear, of course, is on, as it goes down the conveyor, and then move from the conveyor to the cart that takes them actually to the flight itself. And then sometimes they get, fall off the cart, and as a result in falling off the cart, some of them get run over. So that's when you get some of the major damage. But there are other bags that you can actually get damage for, and that is the certain types of you heard about the expandable. You get those bags that expand. You can, it's a little zipper inside the bag, and then you say, hey, look, if I'm going to pack this bag, and the engineers come up with, hey, you unzip this and you can expand it and you can get more into it. For
Right.
those bags, oh yeah, and I call those the obese bags.
The fatties.
Yeah. This is my obese bag, but what happens though, the part that expands out is not very steady in terms of stability as the rest of the bag, because it has a nice frame on that there. But we found that, seeing those bags come down in the carousel and then going on they incur a lot more damage than the others. So the way to get around that, of course, is try not to pack as much in the bag as you would think you do, unless, of course, they charge you a lot of fees. If you're charging you high fees, then you pack the bag because you're trying to get the biggest bang for your buck. But a lot of airlines, until the bag is up to 50 pounds, it's free. They don't charge you for it. So if you could pack pretty efficient and using the mix and match type of clothing, and don't have to have, a shoe for different types of wear, you could manage to do that. And by all means, one of the things that we've seen a lot of, and I was really surprised because we're in a recession, and I see a lot of people check bags that actually can fit in the overhead compartment.
Mm-hmm.
And for the life of me, I said, those backpacks that they do, I said, why would you, want to waste that kind of money when you can take that and put it into the backpacks? But we've seen a lot of that as well there. But you just have to wonder there.
Oh, absolutely.
But getting back to another situation that happens that damage the back, and this is on the inside. And I call this the drunken suitcase story. Okay?
The drunken suitcase. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Have you ever, I am just appalled to see that, right now when you pack a bag, if you have more than 3 ounces of liquid, and they know they know they can't take it through, they put it in a check bag. And this is some wine, and it's some pretty, I would think it was some pretty good wine. And occasionally we see the wine coming down the carousel, and here's this bag dripping wine. Everybody say, golly, what a waste of wine, that kind of stuff. And one of the keys here is whenever you are going to have anything in glass, please do not pack that into your suitcase, because your chances of that getting through the handling of the bags and we handle them quite a bit, is slim and none, if intact. So I would advise not to pack any liquids at all in glass. Now, even if you're going to pack liquids even in a plastic, you really need to put that plastic bag inside of a fillable plastic container, so that if it does, get smushed or damaged, you at least will contain the liquid and don't get all your clothes wet.
Sure.
That would be kind of, pretty disastrous if you. And this is now coming back from a trip, you're probably not going to need them. But if you're going on a trip, you're going to need those clothes, and you don't want to end up doing that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I guess there's a difference between the drunken bag and the semi-protected drunken bag, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And then there's a story we deal with is, I call it the undressed suitcase story.
Undressed.
Yeah, undressed. What they do. It's two things. When you check a bag, either when you get in a hurry packing your bag, they forgot to zip it up properly, or it can be unzipped when you check it, and the TSA, the security, will have to send that through a X-ray machine. And if they see something that is suspicious, they will unzip that bag. So you can't lock those bags that you check anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes through. So when you see that type of situation, that you're going to always you need to really see that they're definitely locked up. Now, not locked up, but make sure they're zipped up. You can't lock them up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens when it comes down to the carousel is personal belongings fall out because they didn't zip up the bag. And these are some pretty personable things, And a lot of people would have to joke and say, and here's some underwear falling out, and everybody's wondering, say, I wonder what bag did that come from?
Everybody's looking at each other, and everybody's like, is that yours? Right. Let's see, would that fit that person?
That's right. Can you imagine a pair of lady underwear falling out, and we don't know who they are? And then, and the people back there trying to put them in the right suitcase. Well, they could have put them in the wrong suitcase. If they put them in the wrong case, that husband get home, he's going to have to explain, what in the world did I get these? He
will have some explaining to do, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, a little explaining back here. Well, I hope he did it right. But most of the time when they fall out like that, they do, go ahead and, give them to lost and found, and either we joke and say, hey, let's go out there, because we know it just came down the carousel, so let's go out there and hold up and say, can anybody own these underwear? Which would be pretty embarrassing. Yeah. And another story we have is the electrical suitcase. That is, here comes a suitcase down the carousel, and you hear something vibrating. It's running. If I say, did they cut it off or what? Or what is it? It could be whatever the case may be. But you want to try to take your batteries out of any type of battery thing if you're going to, put in your suitcase.
Yeah, especially stuff with sliding buttons like electric razors and. Yeah.
You're right about that. Deal, but and then do not put any of your valuables. If you have valuables, you don't want to put those in your check bag. You want to make sure you put those in, the carry-on bag or your purse or those types of things. I would, and not that I saw people, go into the stealing, valuable things. But I just think that that's just plain common sense. You just don't put valuable things out there. You can put your clothes and things like that, and pack them pretty neat, and et cetera, and things like that. But valuable things should be taken on by the ones that you can carry on in your purse or a personal belonging, or the one that you're gonna check.
Yeah, sure, cool. Well, do you have any other disaster stories, or can we move on to what somebody should actually do to pack a suitcase right and keep their stuff safe?
No, that's got some more, but I'll we can move on from here.
Oh, tell me more, man. I'm loving this. This is entertaining.
Well, one of the most ridiculous things that we had that I thought was really funny was that we had a flight that we had a swarm of bees, and I did some reading on this. Bees usually are attracted to electronic type of areas. In other words, whenever there's electronics there, these swarm of bees saw the AC setup that we have to connect when the planes come in. You have to connect the plane to the AC to make sure to the AC to make sure you get air conditioning and things like this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we connect the plane up, the swarm of bees so happen to go and swarm around and say, "Hey, we're gonna make a nest here." And everybody was looking at that, and we said, "How in the world we are going to sit around and get this plane out on time, and the swarm of bees are all over the AC part as we say?" So we would sit up there and had to call in some professional bee, handlers to come in and actually, handle that situation. And everybody would say, "Well, gee whiz, what kind of report are we going to put on this, saying that the plane is going to be 3 hours late because the plane was hijacked by a swarm of bees?" And we had that situation happen, I tell you.
That's great. Cool. Let's give me one more.
Well, this is a plane. Just. Oh yeah. Here's the joke. The JetBlue situation where you had Steven Slater, right? He, that flight attendant that you hear about.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, well, we didn't have nothing as dramatic as that, but we did have a situation, and I couldn't confirm that this is true, but one of the ticket agents is the one that told us that. He said, one day he was being rimmed out by one of the passengers. I mean, at the ticket agent, and that passenger was just absolutely just into this guy. He was just cussing, using the language that you and I wouldn't be using, and he was loud, and these other passengers in the line kept looking at this guy, and saying, and this guy was just smiling. This ticket agent was just smiling and just kept, being very courteous to that guy, and this guy he didn't let up at all. He just kept, rimming. And then, when this guy walked away, this other passenger said, I couldn't help him notice that this passenger was really reaming you out quite a bit. How do you take that? And you were just smiling and laughing, and you just it didn't bother you at all. How do you do that? He said, well, that's pretty easy. He said, this guy here just bought a ticket, and he is going to New York City. However, his bag is going to California. So that's how I'm able to, get back on that situation. And there was one guy who actually really did that,
So what you're saying is be nice to the airline handlers and all the staff, because there's they have ways of getting back at you too.
Absolutely, and we don't have to do it like the JetBlue flight attendant.
There will be no exiting planes in the middle of the tarmac, huh?
Right, absolutely.
All right. Well, give us some tips about what somebody can actually do to pack their suitcase right. I mean, tell us the best case scenario for a suitcase. How do people keep their stuff safe?
To keep their stuff safe. okay, I think I mentioned already, valuables, don't put them in the ones that you are going to check.
Right.
Here. And if you're on vacation and you see, this beautiful painting or this crystal that you want to buy, you're going to want to take those to places like UPS or one of those places who has the proper, the proper way to pack them and get them to you safe. But I would not recommend, and then you can insure them, through that same area. But I would not, I would not do that. And the other thing, of course, is making sure you keep those in the purse. That's the way you can. That's the way you can guarantee, keeping your stuff really safe. And that's about all I can, all you can do to cover that.
Okay, cool. One thing that I'm really impressed about by you is that in 7 years of working with the airlines, you were never once late. Can you give some advice as far as how to always be on time and what really triggers behaviors like tardiness and calling in sick and things like that? You're an expert in this area. Share some of your knowledge.
Well, I had a little help from my parents, and actually, John, it really starts in the immediate environment that you grew up in childhood. My parents instilled in me, you are responsible for your behavior.
Sure.
And that was imprinted in me ever since I was, and my sisters and brothers, etc. And then my mother, of course, her management style was a little bit different from my father. My mother's management style for us and setting the structure was, do as I say and as I do, because she sets the example. My father, of course, was just the opposite. His was, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
And he was kind of slightly a little bit. But when, you got to be committed to that. And when I say you're committed to that, and here's how I would describe, a person being committed. Number one, you got to accept that is a principle, both in your words and your action. Okay? And that's the first thing, and committed to it. And then next you have to act proactive. Like, for instance, it took me, in terms of traveling to work, it took me 30 minutes to get out to the airport. Okay? So if it takes me 30 minutes to get out to the airport, I allow myself 90 minutes. Because number one, I don't want to be caught into to the excuses of, oh, it was an accident, and that's what or it's more traffic, or it was something else, involved in that. So I plan. You got to plan and make sure that you allow a lot of more time to do that. So that's what I call being proactive. The other thing is, if you're the type of person that's in an alarm clock, get your alarm clock. You're going to have to do it. Me, I don't need an alarm clock. My body, my biological clock, when I am totally committed that I don't like to be put on the other end of the stick where I'm waiting on somebody and the person didn't show up. But in airport, matter of fact, one of the most important things there, you have to show up. If the plane is going to leave at a certain time, if you don't get there, you're going to be short and cause your passenger to be late. So you're going to have to do that. The next thing, of course, is you've got to have some alternative routes, and as a backup, and also a different mode of transportation. Now, humans are creature of habits. Once we've gone that way to work, etc., and nothing happened over maybe over a period of a year, not a year, but maybe 3-4 months, we're gonna go that way just about all the time. So you're gonna want to make sure you are listening to a radio station that tunes into, that gives traffic reports every 30 minutes. A lot of them, matter of fact, some of them even give them every 15 minutes,
right,
etc. So you keep that on that. So that way you can say, hey, look, I know if I go this direction, I'm going to have, a situation of delay, and you're going to have to do that. And the last, and I think the most important one is drive with focus, drive with defensiveness, and for God's sake, do not use your cell phone or text. Because just don't do that. Everybody, they think that you can multitask. That is, to me, a myth. When you are multitasking and you are trying to use your cell phone and you're really trying to drive, you're really not doing neither one of them to a point at focus. You are putting yourself at risk as well as you putting others that you may run into. So those would be my advice, and and it worked for me. Because again, I was never late, and of course I had a good childhood, upbringing. And please believe me, when you're a child and your brain is not totally developed, because you haven't had that much experience, but your subconscious is recording all of those behaviors that you see. Now, if you go to work, that's exactly what's happening. And then now, if you go to work, you're going to see some behavior of some of the people that's going to come in late. Okay, and you're going to register that. Then, if the organizations do not handle that properly by, let's say, take some action to correct it, you're going to record that, and you're going to have to make a decision when you are put into that situation. Now, if the organization did not take action to correct that, do I risk doing the same thing, or am I still committed to? I'm responsible for my own action. I'm not responsible for that other person's action. So therefore, I'm going to have to stick with my principle, and you're going to have to resist some of those other behaviors that you see. So that got me through, and believe it or not, when I was in management for 30 years, okay, and I still was the first person at work, and throughout my management, and I was not on the clock, but if I was responsible of setting the example, and which I got from my mother, okay, so I said, hey, and I was able to do that too. So it came somewhat easy for me, John.
That's interesting stuff. I liked what you said about the cell phones, first of all, because I actually was just shown a video from YouTube where this guy is driving on a motorcycle, and he's steering the motorcycle handlebars with his feet, and he's texting on his bike driving down the highway.
Oh, God.
So that's taking it to the extreme, but I'm with you on the cell phone thing. And then I also liked what she said about developing habits. I mean, that's such a powerful way that you laid it out, and it's so clear as well that the more you do something, the more it becomes a habit. So if you are used to coming in late and you don't get reprimanded or you don't see the benefit of showing up on time, then you're going to develop the habit of showing up late everywhere you go. So those are some great tips there. Well done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you have any recommendations? Excuse me. Do you have any ideas about what sort of travel benefits somebody that is an airline worker or personnel in the airline industry can get? I mean, tell us about that.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the big ones. Is going to help me with my book when I do a lot of my book tours. First of all, you get free travel. Okay, when I say free travel, the airline I work for, zero. You don't pay for taxes. The only time you pay for travel would be if there's a first class seat open, and of course that's empty. It's empty. You only pay about, I would say the max is $20.
Wow.
For any first class, and that is going. That's going from Los Angeles to New York or that kind of stuff. And even if you got first class and you were going overseas, Europe and all that kind of stuff, you're still not going to pay no more than about maybe $100 for first class. So you get free travel. The other thing, which is a big deal, is free parking. Free parking in the airport. Some of our airports here charge some of $10, some of $15, $20 a day.
Yeah, here in Vegas, it's like $20 a day if you're in the premium parking.
That get expensive, so you get free parking. Yeah. Also, if you check your bag, that's also free. You also get discounts from various hotels and car rental. So by being that, and you get you get discounts if you're shipping packages by FedEx. We have an agreement with have a lot of them have an agreement with FedEx, and you get you get big discounts. When I say big discount, it's a small, like 40%, 60% discount on those. So those are some of the free, things that you get by being an airline worker.
That's incredible. Well, if somebody wanted to get an airline job, do you have any recommendations about how they should go about doing that?
Okay, that's going to be pretty easy because a lot of the airlines now, they have a very good website that actually is the really main website, if you will, gone online to make your reservations. All you have to do, like for instance, USAir, you just click on usairways.com. Once you get on there, instead of buying the ticket, you just go down to the bottom of the page, and it has careers. Click on that, and once you get on that page, you will have all the job listing, you will have their philosophy, you have the benefits, you have just about every conceivable question you might ask. Now, let's just say there's a personal question that they just so happen to forget to ask, that they just didn't put on that web page. But most companies now have what's called FAQ, which is most asked questions page. And if you don't have that, then you go to contact. Click contact. So there's always a contact. And once you do that, you'll have all the telephone numbers that you can ask for as well. Then you can also apply online. You can put all your information you need. They will and submit that online, and then they will, of course, call you. And when there is a class open for that position, they'll and they'll do that in the same trip. They'll interview you, and at the end of the interview, they'll tell you, say, this class starts in 2 months. And of course, you go through the training, but that's pretty easy. So, and it really has come out handy for me because I worked there 7 years, and I was of the age that, believe it or not, I can actually retire because of the combination of your age and how long you work there, and I can get flights for the rest of my life. So
that's incredible.
Including my wife.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it sounds like it's become easier than ever, and you can really set yourself up for a life of traveling by working in the airline industries. Am I right on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Cool. Well, we're coming to the end of our interview right now, and if anybody has more questions for you, can you talk about how they might be able to get more knowledge from you? I know you have a book. I'd like it if you talked about that as well.
Good. Let me just begin. First of all, again, the book name is Who Do You See in the Mirror? Okay, changing irresponsible behavior into responsible behavior. And why I'm excited about that book is that the behavior professionals, people like Skinner, people like Maslow, people like Watson, they did a lot of research, and they've written a lot of books. Well, I tried to, it took me 7 years to try, and I went through a lot of that research out there. And this book offers something that would be the first time ever that, since we've been writing books, I was able to find a flaw into why, and answer the question, why is it that some people can behave responsibly and some people behave irresponsible? Well, some of it we know is in childhood. But I isolated 5 key elements of human behavior. I call it the human cable system. And the word cable is an acronym. C stands for consequence, A stands for attitude, B stands for behavior, L stands for learning, and E stands for environment. Those 5 key elements, as I began to learn and then observe people in behavior, they are treating those elements which determine your behavior, how you react, exclusive of one another. But in essence, they are inclusive of one another. And let me give you an example of that. When you actually act or make your decision, that automatically creates an outcome which is a consequence. So they have, those two elements have a cause and effect relationship. And some people, when they act, they don't think about the consequences because our education and our research says, oh, well, that's separate. You got to worry about it. It can't be. They cannot be separate because it always, once you make your decision, the outcome is there. Then there's another connection, learning. Whenever there's an outcome, a consequence, there is always a learning. You don't have a choice. You don't sit there and say, okay, I didn't come to work, and I went there late, and by being late, I'm risking being canceled, terminated, or, of course, they could take inaction at all. It may not do anything. But if they didn't take an inaction, I might end up doing it again. You see, I use that information to do it again. If I got canceled or threat or my job is in jeopardy, there's a learning. So that learning there is also cause and effect of consequences.
Sure.
So when I did that, I reformulated all 5 of the elements and called it the human cable system, and then took those 5 elements, and then let some other behavior and psychologists look at it, and they say, you're absolutely right, the way you did it, and said that was what the scientists and the behavior people left out. They explained it, but they didn't formulate it nowhere near where you formulated it. So I am so eager to be the first one to come up with something that was a void. It wasn't intentionally; it was just a void, and that's why I will be traveling using my free flights every state in the union to teach the human cable system of changing your behavior that will be sustainable. Because doing it the other way, and I interviewed a lot of people that did behave. They are still treating them to a point where these things are interconnected. You can tell that because you have to sit there and ask them, say, what were you thinking when you did that? Did you think about the consequences? And then secondly, once you got that, did you learn anything from it?
Mm-hmm.
And there is a difference, John, between a person who has 1 year experience repeated 10 times that was not cumulative versus a person who has 10 years experience that was accumulative, and he learned something each year. That is the difference. That first person learned everything that he thought in 1 year, and he's repeating the same mistake year after year after year after year, and that's the difference. And that kind of proves and that these things are mutually inclusive instead of mutually exclusive, and that's why I'm so excited about the book.
Well, we're excited about it too now. I'm sure anybody listening to you can tell that you've really got an enthusiastic and contagious attitude, so I'm loving this right now. That's the A part of the cable system, the attitude. Do you have anything? So again, everybody, the book is called Who Do You See in the Mirror, and it's by Dr. Joseph Williams, and I highly recommend you go check that out. Do you have any final words for people listening before we say goodbye and sign off this interview?
Yeah. Yes. You can get the book. Let me kind of give. I don't think I mentioned it. Here's how you can get to my webpage, and that way it will give you just about everything you want. It's www.drjawcsms.com, and there's a 4-minute video. And just once you get on there, just click the 4-minute video, and it'll give you an overview of the human cable system and an overview of the book. So that's and again, I think it's one of those books that so far it's been rated 4 stars out of 5, and one reviewer who read the book And this person, and this was my first interview I got for the book, and he said that based upon what he read the book, he said this book is so profoundly accurate that everyone in high school, everyone in every student in college, and everyone from the shipping clerk to the CEO, and anyone who is aspiring to public office should be mandatory to read this book. That was the greatest book review from a book critic, that you can get.
Sure, yeah, that's powerful stuff.
So he was impressed with the book, and I am too as well. And now I'm hoping to travel all over the U.S. Promoting the book.
All right, Dr. Williams, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed that.